Hey everyone, welcome back to another Monday Motivation episode of No More Excuses. I am your host, Sandy Ballard, the Badass Business Coach. Thanks for being here, for listening, for sharing the podcast with others, and for most importantly, for investing in you, right? Well, this podcast, if you're new here, it's where I tell it like it is, give you tips, some tricks, share stories, get you motivated to grow both personally and professionally, and run that business or your department or your career like a badass. Now, from one badass to another, thank you for being here. In my last podcast, I shared a story of how I failed to create a plan to achieve my goals. Yes, I admitted it. I talked about it. I told on myself. And, I talked about how I thought I had my shit together. I thought I was living a good life. I did have a good life, but I hadn't created that plan. And why I shared this last week was because I keep getting asked a lot lately, because I'm meeting new people, networking in new areas, but I've been getting asked, how did you become a coach? When did you become a coach? So I thought I would tell you because I'm not sure if I've ever really shared the story on my podcast. So if you haven't listened to it, go back 412. It talks about, are you happy where you are? I realized that I was not happy where I was, right? Yes, I turned around my wishes into goals. I finally got my shit together. I had this big aha moment that yeah, I hadn't created the plan. I just said I was going to do a lot of stuff and then didn't. Right? So my first book, titled From There to Here, is about how I got on the right path, how I figured it out. And I was rereading one of the chapters, and I thought I'd share more about what was holding me back. Fear. Yes, I know, me, the big badass business coach, was full of fear. But in my defense, this all started way back when. In my book, I actually share stories from the second grade on up. So, it's shit that affected my life. And yes, fear fucked me in some situations. I believe things happen for a reason. And had I done some of the things I said I was going to do, who knows where I'd be? I don't know. I may not be the badass business coach. I may be the badass race car driver that I was too afraid to tell my dad that I wanted to do. Yes, too afraid. We'll never know. But what I do know is I did a lot of work to learn how to let go of fear and start taking chances. In chapter 3, I share quite a few stories, like I said, from the second grade on, and probably until about 2013, when I realized fear had fucked me, when I realized I wasn't doing what I said I was going to do. And one of the quotes from my chapter was, fear paralyzed me, but competition motivated me. And it was interesting because I thought about that. I love sports and I love competing. And I also had to shift that thinking that I am my only competition. And I know it's hard to say that with the Olympics coming up and we all want to be number one and we want to win, but at what cost do we, and who are we challenging? Okay, someone might have a faster time. So when I was running, it's like I just needed to know my own pace and do the best I could because I'm competing with myself. And I had to learn that. But it was also just that fear. So fear paralyzed me, competition motivated me. And I realized I needed some more people, challenging me a little bit when I was younger. My parents were not very challenging people. Now, I got in a lot of trouble because I didn't do certain things, but another conversation for another day. But competition, I needed something to get me motivated, right? Because that fear was winning. That fear had its nasty little claws in me. And I learned over the years that you are your only competition and you have to look at how you can be the best version of you. And, maybe it's getting an accountability buddy or someone to help challenge you like that. But otherwise, fear, you have to find out what motivates you. Like I learned what motivates me, because otherwise fear will take it over. Fear will get in you and will take over your mind and take over everything about you. And so, think about you. When have you allowed fear to fuck you, right? Maybe you were too afraid to speak up and share your opinion or ask a question in a meeting. Or have you been too afraid to quit your job and start that business you've always wanted to? Are you too afraid to ask that person out that you think is kind of cool? Are you too afraid to ask for help? Too afraid to admit you don't know how to do something and instead you don't do it? I have a client that I think one of her managers is going through a little bit of that. So we're digging into that. But you've got to admit it first. You've got to face that fear, right? So think about it. How have you learned to let go of fear and take risks? Or have you? What motivates you? In my book, I quote Nikki Sixx. And if you don't know who Nikki Sixx is, shame on you, but look it up. His quote was from a line from one of his songs: "I hope I don't die before the best day of my life." Right? Think about that. So then I'll ask you another question. If you were going to die tomorrow, if you knew you were going to die tomorrow, would you say that you're happy and have no regrets? Are you happy where you are now? Or are you allowing fear to control your path? I know. So many questions, Sandi. Well, that's the point of the podcast. And that's the point of my book, was to share that I was there. I've been there. I worked through it. I worked through, I don't want to call it a shit show of a life, because it was a good life, but I wasn't satisfied. I knew deep down inside something was missing. I just needed to learn how to let go of that fear, and I needed to learn how to relight that little spark that was, fizzling out, right? I had a great realization of who I had been, and now I decided who I wanted to become, and I took those steps. So, and now I am here. Where are you? All right. So I'm going to challenge you today to end this week in social media, because I carry this theme all the way through, to really dig in and see where fear is getting in the way of your success, and tell fear to fuck all the way off. Yes. Now, how are you going to do this, you ask? A review session, like a deep dive. Yes, it's like a goal session, but really digging into your core, what's going on inside of you, what's going on in your head. So ask yourself these 3 questions. What goals have you not achieved? What's something you've always wanted to do personally and professionally, but you never have? And you're thinking, that could be a goal. I guess so. Yes, it could be another goal, but I want to make sure you're thinking personally and professionally. And this could just be taking a hot air balloon ride. It's more like a bucket list than a goal. And then the biggie, what are you afraid of? You may not be able to answer that last question right away, and that's okay. I didn't know. I had to do some soul searching. Trust me, I was laying down in the middle of my office some days, just looking up at the ceiling, like, what the fuck? What am I doing here? Why am I here? What is going on? What do I want? And why? I know, so many questions. So grab a notepad, or if you see this giant Post-it note back here, no, it doesn't have all the answers on it. That's what I like to do, stand there and I just brainstorm, and just, that's what I do my own strategy sessions with myself and with clients. Just write it all down and ask yourself those 3 questions. What goals have you not achieved? What's something you've always wanted to do personally and professionally but haven't? And what are you afraid of? So again, one of the stories I told in the book is, I was in the 2nd grade and I was new to the school, and they threw me in as the milk lady. I don't know if any of you younger people will understand what that is, but somebody that literally sells just the milk. I stood there. I was completely frozen. I have no idea why, other than the fact that I was straight up brand new in this school. And at that point in my life, I was shy. I know. And then another one, but I still don't know, except for maybe I just was afraid to talk to people because I was so new. But later on, we had a hayride in our neighborhood, and I jumped off the hayride, while it was moving at a slow pace, and I ate shit in the rocks, you know, scraped up my knees, pebbles and all in them. And I lied. I said the neighbor kid, Ronald, I'm still sorry. I know. I hate it. I wish I knew where you were. I've tried to find you, so I could apologize to you. But what was I afraid of? Looking stupid. I was so embarrassed. I was afraid of not being as cool as the older kids who jumped off completely unscathed, right? So instead, I blamed someone else for that. And shame on me. So again, think about a time. What are you afraid of? Attach it to maybe a goal you haven't achieved. Attach it to maybe a story like that where you blame someone else, or you froze, but you aren't sure why. Or something like the bucket list item. What is holding you back? Right? I was afraid of my dad, even though he loved cars. I don't know why the hell I didn't tell him I wanted to be a race car driver. Anyway, so do that. Want help? Let me know. I have 2 review sessions coming up. Okay. So if you want to do more than just on your own notepad or giant post-it note, July 16th, 3 p.m. Pacific time. So the 6 p.m. So like an evening session on the East Coast, and July 26th at 9 a.m. So noon on the Eastern time, East Coast. So those are the 2 sessions. They're free. Let's do this. Jump in, go to my website, badassbusiness.coach, go to the events section, and they're on there. You can choose which day works best for you. So do it. What can you lose, right? You'll realize you're not alone, and that's kind of the coolest thing. So also, if for some reason you're not comfortable doing a group session, get on there and schedule or email me, Sandi@sandiballard.com. Remember Sandi with an I, because my mom was the coolest thing ever, or a pain in the ass. And schedule a private session with me, but just make sure you're doing this, you're digging in, and you're figuring out the fear that's holding you back to help you move forward in your business, your career, and your life. All right. Until next time, stay badass. Cheers.